As I watch videos of basketball trainers on YouTube, the idea of complicated and complex continues to be confused. So complexity describes the task. So 1 versus 1 or 2-on-2 is less complex than 5-on-5. As we design practices and design drills, we need to manipulate the complexity from simple drills to more complex drills because as we add complexity, we get nearer and nearer to the game. So basic, block shooting drill, for instance, is a simple drill. Regardless of your speed, distance, etc., it's simple. It's based on the task. There's very few external variables involved. Whereas if you then go to, let's say, a one-on-one where maybe the defense is closing out at a shooter and you're using that as a shooting drill, now you're adding some complexity because there's a decision that needs to be made. Am I open? When do I shoot, etc. Then as you add more players, it becomes more and more complex. Each additional player adds complexity, whether that's an offensive player, a defensive player, or both. So complexity and manipulation of complexity is definitely necessary within the practice design process. Making drills complicated does not necessarily make a drill more game-like or more appropriate, nor does it necessarily help with skill development. So you can make something complicated by putting together a string of instructions, and this may or may not have any value. So, taking a dribbling drill, let's say, I could, tell a player, I want you to start on the baseline, I want you to do this move, then this move, then this move, then I want you to get to the free throw line, and then you're going to do this, then you're going to go to half court, and you're going to do this, then you're going to go and do this. And so the instructions become complicated. And it's not necessarily adding anything beneficial to the drill. I could, reduce the complications and simply have them practice. If it's an isolated drill anyway, I could, tell them, we could practice one move and then the next move, we could structure it in some other form to do the same type of stuff. And oftentimes we complicate drills because we're trying to reduce the amount of wasted time at practice. So, rather than players standing around, while another player does the main purpose, let's say it's a finishing drill and we have a line, let's say we only have one basket, so we only want one player finishing at a time. So then we give instructions to the other players to avoid them, just standing around and not doing anything. So there can be purposes to kind of add to and to add some complication, if you will. But really all we're doing there is trying to keep players busy. It's not necessarily how you're going to develop skill, by standing in line and, doing a figure eight with the ball instead of just standing in line. That's really not going to develop your skills, much more. So, there's reasons to add these instructions, but, especially if you're working out, with a single player, if it takes that player, first of all, it takes you longer to explain the drill than it does for the player to actually perform the drill, then to me the instructions or the drill is probably too complicated. If the player has to ask multiple questions just to understand the instructions of the drill, nothing to do with the skill that you're practicing, but just wait, so I do this, then this, or do I do that and that? If they have to ask multiple questions just to understand the instructions, it's probably too complicated. You're spending more time discussing a drill than you are actually practicing the skill. And ultimately, the drill doesn't have any purpose other than enhancing one's skill in a game. And so if the drill that you're doing is too complicated to really get anything out of it, then what's the purpose? We're trying to improve skills for a game. The drill doesn't take place in a game. So if I do, for instance, one of my drills that tends to take a long time to explain is the perfect square drill, and I'll link that below. So you do multiple ball handling moves, you move in a square, etc., etc. None of those occur in the game as it's done in that drill. It's just a simple ball handling drill, again, that I use when I have multiple players that I'm trying to incorporate at one time. And so if they don't understand the drill and it's taking too long to explain the drill and to get the players to understand the drill, it's lost all purpose. I'm better off just getting rid of those instructions and doing, one move at a time into a finish, or just playing one-on-one. Because ultimately, if we want to move from that drill to one-on-one, two-on-two, three-on-three anyway, because that's how players are going to learn to use the moves in games, is to be able to go against the defensive player. So if my technique practice is becoming too complicated or taking too long to instruct, it's losing its purpose. And so we definitely need complexity. We need to add complexity, but we need to understand the difference between making something complicated just to keep players busy, or to make something look hard, and adding complexity so that it becomes more and more game-like and we incorporate more of the variables in a game and ultimately enhance the transfer of the practice to game performance.